If you were going to pick the absolute best location for your off-grid home, you might not put it in the shadow of a big old mountain. But most north-facing slopes typically have more trees. But this time of year, the sun does not hit our solar panels until about 10 a.m. So because of the location of where we put our house, these are things that we have to deal with now. But like I said, in a best case scenario, the sun would hit our solar panels much earlier in the day than they do at this time. And between our solar system and our backup generator, we keep the batteries charged, but it would be nice to use the sun instead of the generator. The little cabin appears to be in one piece. I'm going to snowshoe up to the cabin and spend a couple days up there at least once over winter. But between about mid-November and mid-January, we get about 3 to 4 hours of direct sunlight a day. A wheel spacer on a brand new vehicle. Are you kidding me? I'm thinking a lot about swapping that motor out, and my head is just not really in the game, but I kept looking at my wife's car going, why are these wheels sticking out so far? And when I went to tighten the lug nuts, I paid attention to what I was doing, and it dawned on me that there was spacers on the rotors. And I kept thinking to myself, there's no way there's spacers. This thing was brand new. No dealership would ever put spacers on a brand new vehicle. But those are spacers. So I gotta go back and pull the tires off on the other side. Pull the spacers off, put the tires back on, but Cedar's going to be more happy because she was really concerned about how far the tires were sticking out. So that's how far it'll stick out now. I was really frustrated over this whole thing because I couldn't figure out why the wheels were sitting so wide. And again, I just wasn't paying attention because I couldn't for the life of me imagine that a dealership would put spacers. It had 200 miles on it when we bought it. It had never been, it had never been sold before. My lovely wife is standing behind the camera. She likes the way her new rig looks, I think.
New pair of shoes.
So I'm going to finish putting the back wheel on and pull the spacers off the other side. But I was thinking about the plow truck because I should be working on that. But as Cedar was walking the trash up to the burn barrel, she pointed out that her Jeep looks good. And then once we put the 2-inch lift on it, it'll look even better. Yeah, it's hard to be civilized when we live up here in the mountains. We're muddy all the time.
Doing what Jeeps are made to do.
The guy that I bought the welder from laughed at my truck when he said, he goes, well, everybody says the same thing. Somebody's been mud bogging. And I says, yeah, that's what I do to get home every day. And then he asked where we lived. And after I told him, he knew the area.
I didn't tell you about the guy that after I dropped off the stuff at the donation place, He looks at me and goes, "You been mudding?" And I said, no. I live on a dirt road. It always looks like this. Looks sweet.
The old guys are just flirting with you, is what it.
He was like 25.
He was 25 and he was flirting with you. I swear, you get way more action when you drive this Jeep than when I drive the Jeep.
Not me.
You get pulled over way more than I do.
It's all about the mud.
We managed to get about 35,000 miles out of the tires that were on her Jeep when we bought it new at the dealership. But before the weather and the road got any worse, I wanted to get new wheels and tires put on Cedar's Jeep. So really the only question I have about those wheel spacers is do they carry the same warranty that our fuel system does? And if they do, then I guess we're good. So rather than fighting the cab, and because there's not much of this cab left, I'm going to pull the cab off, slide it back, then remove the entire drivetrain, get the frame and the axles out of here, and then basically do the same thing. But on the new truck, I'm going to have to pull that cab as well and slide it back. But I would rather do it this way than to split the transmission and the engine. That's what I'm trying to avoid doing. I don't really want to split the transmission and the engine. The only issue is my cherry picker, my engine hoist. That's almost probably 1,700 pounds of engine, transmission, and transfer case. So however I lift this, I have to be really careful how I do it. So I'm going to try and get what's left of the cab off. When we bought Cedar's Jeep Wrangler EcoDiesel new, it had 200 miles on it. It now has about 35,000 miles on it, and most of those miles are up and down our dirt road, and so far, we've had absolutely no issues with the Jeep. But there is now a recall on her Jeep that I'm concerned about. Her Jeep now requires the fuel pump to be replaced under warranty because of this recall. Parts are not even available and won't be available until at least January, so there's a slight possibility that her car could leave her on the side of the road. And that was one of my main concerns with this particular diesel. Jeep has officially discontinued the Jeep Wrangler EcoDiesel, although they are going to continue to make a couple other diesel models. But as soon as her warranty officially expires, I will do what I have to do to remove the restrictions on that motor to get it to run better and hopefully last much, much longer. Because she really likes that thing and she doesn't want to get rid of it. Roll that out here and pressure wash it off. I worry that the way things are going, my old Dodge that I'm rebuilding here in the garage is going to end up being the preferred vehicle. That thing will basically run on anything that's relatively close to diesel. And like I said, it only requires one wire to start. If I had to, I could start it with a zip tie. So having this truck around here as a backup certainly doesn't hurt my feelings. But hopefully, we don't run out of diesel anytime soon, and hopefully they get the parts to keep my wife's Jeep on the road. Now that I've got the drivetrain pressure washed and blown off, it's time to get ready to swap it from this frame to the other truck. I was gonna call it a night, but if I can get the drive shafts off, the front and back drive shafts off, it's gonna take me like 20 minutes to pull the motor. There's only 3 bolts basically to get the motor pulled, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and do it. I'm not necessarily a Dodge guy any more than I'm a Ford guy or a Chevy guy. But what I am is a Cummins diesel guy. And as far as this engine, transmission, and transfer case, there may not be a better setup for my situation. I'm going to go ahead and call it a night and sleep on this. I know the lift will lift it. I'm just too tired to think about this right now, and I want to make sure that I pick this in a way where I can safely get the frame out from underneath it without potentially dropping the drivetrain. It really is quite a bit to be lifting with a cherry picker, but it'll do it. So it's all cleaned up. I'm kind of excited now, and that's part of the reason why I feel like I need to slow down a little bit. But my plan is to get out here first thing, get the engine picked, get it setting on jack stands, get the old frame out, get the new truck in here, and then start the process of pulling that cab off before I can put the drivetrain in there. So. The original 12-valve Cummins diesel engine was designed to work in some serious industrial applications, but it was specifically designed to run and run well when it gets really, really cold. And truthfully, they probably have about half as many moving parts as most modern diesel engines do as well. But if you take care of them, they'll almost never let you down. The part of this job that I'm actually struggling the most with is putting the drivetrain back into a Dodge. Because if I wasn't so pressed for time, this drivetrain would end up in a 1969 regular cab F-250. So I pulled the frame and axles and what was left of Rhett's wrecked truck. I pulled it out of the shop, and now I've got to get the new truck pulled into the shop as well. But I need to get the truck pulled in, nose first, so I can swap the engine in just like I took it out. The only way I can install the drivetrain into this truck in one piece is if I move the cab back a couple of feet. Again, because this is technically a cab over engine, there's just not a whole lot of room. And it took less time for me to move the cab than it would be to split up the engine, transmission, and transfer case. When my son Rhett wrecked this truck, he rolled the truck over, and I know that the majority of the fluid in the transmission is probably not in it. I'm going to add the fluid that's necessary to both the transmission and the transfer case before I put it in the new truck. I also want to replace both seals on the front and back of the transfer case before I put it in the truck as well. Once I topped off the transfer case, it started leaking out of the front driveline seal. So I have to run to town to get the parts to fix the transfer case before I can put it in. I used a little bit of sandcloth to clean up this yoke before I installed it back in the transfer case. So the drivetrain is completely ready to be installed into the new plow truck. Thank you guys for taking time to watch our videos. It means more than words can say, and we will see you in a few days, hopefully with a truck that has a new drivetrain installed in it, and maybe getting a little bit closer to being a plow truck.